Hi there, it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the Christmas card that we are going to be creating today. This is I think it's number 7 in the series. Anyhow, I have these Distress Oxide colours here and I have the black soot in the Distress ink because I don't even own the black soot in the Distress Oxide. But anyhow, I've just chosen some blues, just a range of blues that I have, and then the Wilted Violet for the purple. This is the Simon Says Stamp masking paper. I am just going to take some of this and I'm just going to hand cut something. You might have a die that does similar, and I do have some dies, but they had stitching lines on them and I didn't want stitching. So I'm just kind of cutting a hill shape, so to speak, just roughly. It doesn't matter too much, and that is what I'm going to put down the bottom of my card. Now I am making sure to keep the other part because we'll be using that later on. So I'm just going to take off the backing paper and then kind of put that down on the angle that I want. Not too much of a hill, but enough to be kind of recognizable, I guess. And then I'm starting from the bottom with my lightest colour, and I can't even remember what the colours are of these. I kind of just move on up with a light-ish and then a medium, and then the blueprint sketch is the darkest one that I have up the top. This is on a piece of 80-pound Nina Solar white paper, and they do blend pretty well, and I am being pretty heavy-handed with the ink, so but it doesn't matter too much in the end, to be honest. And here is the black. Now I came in really softly to begin with, and I haven't had any trouble using the Distress ink over the Distress Oxide. As I said, I don't own the black soot and the Distress Oxide, so I'm just using what I have, and it seemed to work fine, so all good. And I just wanted it to be like kind of a nighttime scene, maybe like a snowy nighttime scene, was what I had in my head. It didn't come out perfect, but that's okay. And so I'm kind of going a little bit light with the black. I don't want it to be super dark, obviously. And I'm just going to tuck these pieces round the corner of masking paper for a second because I'm going to do some heat embossing on it, and I use heaps of this powder because I'm going to use some white heat embossing powder, and I do not want anything to stick, so I pour this stuff on. Anyway, I'm going to use this opaque bright white superfine embossing powder by Wow, and on this stamp set here is these 3 little snowflakes, and then the Merry Christmas from this little gingerbread one, and then on this one I'm going to use the deer and the tree. I do really like that little snowman though, and I remember I used him last year, but anyhow. So I've got the Merry Christmas, and again these stamp sets are all that I've had 2 years now, and I'm just reusing them all because you can mix and match stamp sets and come up with, you know, the scene that you want or the image that you want. I often find that if I go back through and find these things, have a look, I end up finding, you know, something that'll make do. Now I did want to use this snowman, so I put him here, but against the tree he just is too big. So the deer got to stay. Anyhow, I'm just peeling back this masking tape because I actually don't need it now. And so everything is dry and set, so I shouldn't be smudging the ink. And I can put all 3 of these in my Mini Misty at the same time, and I am adding more powder from the EK Success powder tool, and then I'm using some sticky ink to stamp these down onto my background. Now I have made sure that the kind of tree and the deer's wee feet are just touching that white snow. I want it to actually look like he's on it rather than floating. And here I'm going to pour that white embossing powder that I showed you earlier on, and it ended up being pretty good. But this is how tired I am. I heat emboss the deer with my heat tool, and then I heat emboss the tree, and I think I'm done. So I turn it off. And then I'm like, yep, no, I did not do the Merry Christmas. So it'll come back into frame and I'll finish the job. Anyhow, so it's looking quite good. It looks quite plain at the moment. And all of my cards for this series are plain and simple. They are quick, plain and simple. But we can add a little bit more. So here are these snowflakes that I talked about earlier, and I end up using, I think, just the smallest and the medium one, and I didn't really like the bigger one, felt too big for the scene, so that's okay. And then I'm just going to use exactly the same embossing powder and heat them so that they're all melted. Now I wanted this to be kind of a snowy scene, and so I'm going to add, first of all, with a little bit of white gesso, I'm going to water it down and use a paintbrush to flick on some splatters. I start with like what I thought was quite a small paintbrush, but I actually end up switching pretty fast to an even smaller, finer paintbrush, because generally the smaller the paintbrush, the finer the splatter effect that you'll get. Now I wanted this to be like a snowy scene, and so I want the bottom, I was thinking about using glitter on the bottom white part that I had masked off that has no ink. Maybe glitter or some beads, and I could use like embossing paste, or I could just use matte medium and adhere glitter down to it, or I could even just cut some double-sided tape and adhere it down. I had this Nouveau Glimmer paste, I could have used that. Here's the diamond sheen fine glitter. I just honestly had a look through my stash. I have these really fine little beads here, tiny little beads. These were from AliExpress as well, and I thought about adhering those down. But then I found this glass bead glitter gel from Faber-Castell that I bought not super long ago, but a little bit ago, and hadn't really used it at all. So here is the other part of what I'd cut out, the bit that I had saved from earlier. And so once I finally figure out where this piece goes, I am going to cut it out. Now, this is a lesson on what not to do, what Natasha does, because none of the splatters are dry. They are all still very wet and very smudgeable. So I decide myself to be clever, and that's why I cut this fine little line, and I cut ridiculous pieces out to miss that big splatter by the deer's chest. Anyhow, you should wait until it's dry if you have the time, because this never works out well. This time it actually did, but usually it never works out well. So I'm sticking that mask down so that I don't get any of this paste on the ink. I just want the snow to be on the ground. So I'm opening this up, and I'm just using that palette knife that I used earlier to put down some speckles. I'm just using that knife to put down this paste and realize I need something underneath it. Now, I probably should have tested this out first before I decided to do it straight on my project that I had almost finished. But I don't even know how thick I should be doing this layer. I'm just trying to get it smooth. I'm not sure if smooth matters. But anyway, I've put it on, and I'm going to remove this little mask. And this is it wet, so I'm going to leave it wet, and then in a second I'm going to show you it dry. And I filmed the dry part, about a day later, but it just took a few hours to dry. So this project turned out really well. It's very hard to show you the sparkles in the glass bead glitter gel. It is very sparkly and looks really cool snow. So there's my project kind of finished and done. I hope you enjoyed this one and can give something similar a go, and I will see you in the next card. There's only a couple left for this series, so I hope you're enjoying. Thanks, bye!